Hey everyone, welcome to the Horror Show Podcast. I'm Cecil Laird.
Fuego here.
Marcia Parker.
And we are here to basically whittle down our own choices for the upcoming Great Horror Debate, the return of the Great Horror Debate to be brought out on May something or other for Phoenix Comic Fest. So yeah, that's what we're going to be discussing. We have to choose our options because we are going to be battling Eric from the Death Twitch on these particular answers, and so we have to come up with a cohesive set of answers of our own. So that's what we're here to do. This will not be released until after the Great Horror Debate has been held. So you guys will be hearing this a few weeks after we actually record it, but we still need to determine the answers. So here we go. Number one is... basically what we're going to need to do is come up with an answer and come up with an alternative just in case Eric chooses the same thing. Okay? Mm-hmm. So the first one is best 80s horror icon.
So we're going with icon and not movie.
Yep. I will fall down for Freddy on this one.
Yeah, I think everyone's going to fight over Freddy in this one.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, Eric might not. So we might have to decide on a better, on a backup. But Marcia, who would you say?
I mean, I'm going to say Michael Myers just because I think he's hilarious.
But he was created in 79.
Slut.
Yeah.
80s Michael Myers.
That's the thing. Like,
yeah, I mean, the incarnations and they're like, I don't know. That's one of the tough things.
He is an 80s slasher because he did
Yeah.
slash in the 80s.
Well, I mean,
so
just
technically, yeah.
Well, just like Phantasm 2 came out in 88, I want to say, but the franchise started in 79, and yet number 2 is my favorite entry in the franchise.
I don't think Phantasm's going to win.
No, because not enough people have seen any of those movies.
No.
I would say The Tall Man, he's iconic, and Angus Scrimm did a hell of a job, but I can't go with that, obviously. I have other ideas.
You really would have said The Tall Man over Freddy?
If I can't do Freddy, everybody's going to want Freddy. Freddy, for me, is the most iconic slasher
I don't know that he'll
ever.
go with Freddy. I don't think he'll go with Freddy.
Who do you think Eric would go with, though? You think he'd go Jason?
Because Pinhead was created in 88. Or
He was.
80,
I
yeah.
disagree. Pinhead's a good... Well, I mean... yes, he's a good icon. Actually, he's a good icon.
Chucky came in the 80s.
Chucky was in the 80s.
Chucky's a good choice.
That's why I'm thinking you're not going. I'm surprised you're not going with Chucky because I know how much.
I would say after Freddy, I would go with Chucky.
No?
Yeah,
after Freddy, number one is Chucky for me.
Chucky's a good choice.
So we all agree that number one should be Freddy.
Obviously,
right?
Obviously, yeah.
Okay.
But and yet this is the other one. Like for me, horror icon would be, but it's from a remake in the 80s though. And you know what I'm going to say. I feel like the way they did the Blob in the 80s was incredibly iconic. And some of them, I mean, that's a horror icon, a big gelatinous thing that can just suck you up and amass you. You disagree? Oh my God.
One movie? No.
No, I don't think it's enough.
It has to be, well, it was technically the third movie in the Blob series, but then again, it was a series that started with Steve McQueen in the late 50s. It was late 50s, early 60s.
Unless you're super clever and hilarious in your debate, I don't think you're going to win people over.
Well, this is where this is a very difficult category, in my opinion, then.
I disagree. I think it's pretty easy.
Well, we came up with two.
Well, you have Jason,
ones.
you have Chucky, and you have Freddy, and you have Pinhead. I mean, who else had multiple movies in the 80s?
I would have gone with Michael Myers, but that's because...
yeah, I mean, again, I still think Michael Myers could count because he did have a lot in the 80s. But would Michael Myers really have... You would
I don't think it would. I don't think Michael Myers
would you say Michael Myers or Chucky?
I would say Chucky over Michael.
Honestly, didn't Michael only have, like... Because I know number 2 was in the 80s, and then was 4 in the late 80s? Or was that early 90s?
I think it was late 80s.
It was like 88, 89, something like that. The Return of Michael Myers. I want to say it was 88 or 89. Because Season of the Witch was like 83, 84, maybe, something like that.
I will check right now.
Yeah. I mean, because seriously, I just went through the names originating in the 80s. Jason, Chucky, Freddy, Pinhead.
Do we know who's doing each category?
Was Halloween 4.
Okay.
Do we have
Halloween 5 was
89. Yeah, next year. Yeah. Well, the slasher craze was still going, which is why they brought him back in the the late 80s. Anyway, so who else had multiple movies?
You know what? There could be. You could make, even if he goes with Freddy, I still think an argument could be made for Chucky.
I still like going movie versus icon, but this is set in stone, right?
Yeah, I mean, I asked him, so he chose icon. We can choose score over soundtrack.
Well,
I like our choices.
And to be iconic, they have to have at least more than one movie in that decade, I would imagine.
I mean, I think it helps the argument. You don't need to, but I think it only helps your argument.
Well, that's why you guys shut down my blob idea. Cause
I just don't think it's. I think there's no.
I shut it down because I don't think it's going to.
I don't think it would win at all. Yeah, I don't think it would get anywhere.
You don't think like the Thing creature would be an iconic?
I think it could be iconic. I don't think it would get anywhere near winning against those people.
No.
I think Pinhead would win over the Thing as well.
Because when you say 80s icon, people aren't going to go Bob.
They aren't going to say the creature from the Thing.
They're
going to say, oh, the icons.
They're going to say...
the four names I mentioned. Freddy, Chucky, Jason, Pinhead.
Yeah, pretty much.
Who else is there? Can you guys think of anyone else?
Myers.
Well, once again, I'm still going with originating in that decade,
I'm not.
Though.
No, I'm just saying there are slashers that were popular in the 80s that
Lost Boys.
That were even popularized in the 80s.
Lost Boys. No. Van Helsing. What?
Van Helsing? What'd you say?
What?
I think you mean Van Helsing.
So we're gonna go for Freddy and Chucky.
I think Freddy and Chucky are the clear.
Do we know who's running?
Well, that's
that
right,
question?
because it's us debating against. It's all three of us debating against him, right?
Well, it's maybe four. I don't know. We'll see.
Maybe
probably just three, but yeah. And then so yeah, exactly. We'll have to debate. So whatever. That's why we have to divide these up.
Too bad we can't get Jason to come down to be like a teammate with Eric, and it could be like.
Oh, that would be funny.
That would be.
No, we could approach it. I would like to deliver this one, though. I would like to deliver the icon.
The question.
Yeah,
okay.
I saw your name on it already.
Now, again, if it comes down to... I would like to deliver the next one, too, but... Because the rest, I could give or take. I would be able to chime in on the score, but the next two, I don't really care that much about. Let's see if we match up on the practical effects. I'm, of course, going to go the Thing. And then my backup was the Fly for best practical effects.
Well, once again, what mine would be, but...
You would still say the Blob?
I
Really?
would still say the Blob, dude. Yes. So good. But, I mean, I could easily go with the Thing. I would be happy with that. I mean, any of those... They're all three remakes, and they're the three best remakes ever made, in my opinion. They were all 50s movies originally.
Now, for just those effects purposes, would you say the Fly or the Blob? For outstanding practical effects.
I'd still go the Blob.
Really?
But yeah, okay. I would.
Marcia, what about you? The Thing, the Fly, the Blob? Have you seen any of them?
I have. I mean, I think the Fly, because that one just like freaked me out the most.
It was extraordinarily scary.
And it's Jeff Goldblum. I feel like all you have to do is say Jeff Goldblum and drop the mic.
I just feel like
there's more of a variety of effects in the Blob because there's so many different deaths and craziness. But the transformation,
but it's all amorphous blob kills, whereas there's a lot more detail to the Fly transformation and stuff like that.
Oh man, the guy getting pulled into the drain, the football player getting melted down. I mean, there's a lot of really great stuff in that Blob movie. But I mean, if we're all collectively more familiar with the Fly, I would honestly say I think the effects in the Thing are better than the Fly, personally.
Well, no, I agree. No, I think the Thing would be number one.
Yeah.
And then I would go with the Fly over the Blob for number two. Mm-hmm. But
so then should we
honestly, it's been a while since I've seen the Blob.
Yeah.
If I'm honest with you.
Okay.
So I don't. Those kills aren't fresh in my mind.
Maybe you need to fast forward through it.
I can probably do that. But again, if I had my druthers, I would like to present this one, and I would go with the Thing. Although I don't know, Eric might go with the Thing as well.
This is what I'm going to ask though, since it's him against multiple people. Are we just going to let him go first, and so we always have a backup?
No, I think we can defer to him. Yeah, if there's three, if we were tied on all five, he would get three, we would get two, that kind of thing.
Okay.
So, but there's only we're gonna have to have an impartial party. We'll have to have Dave look at both answers and say if we need to change any of them. So that way we don't know what his answers are gonna be. You know what I mean?
I was gonna say Dave so Dave will be the only judge.
No, the audience is
the judge.
Dave is the MC.
Dave's the moderator. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so
it would make sense if he had the answers ahead of time, because then you can make a thing. But then Eric has to trust that
we're not going
to see it
ahead of time. Yeah, I imagine he would. Are we good on the Thing and the Fly / the Blob as possible?
Yeah.
Okay.
Dude, I'm serious. I think there's some. We need to figure out some way to get Jason down that day to have some part in that panel. I think it could be.
Well, he's coming down for Mad Monster.
Okay.
So we don't need to
have multiple
overdo
people.
It.
Okay.
But let's see. Okay, so the next one is best retro movie for a drinking game. And this one I just went with my favorite retro movie. I didn't even have any parameters or anything.
That's where we were trying to
disagree just because I hate that movie. But
I'm not the biggest fan of it either. It's
Killer
decent,
Clowns.
but
We'll
it's
let
not
you
one
in
of
on
my-
the on
Yeah,
it.
Killer Clowns from Outer Space is what I put.
I would say Leprechaun or
Okay.
Final Destination.
I'm down with Final Destination, and that movie's over 20 years old now. 97.
Okay, so what would be the drinking game though?
Every time Devon Sawa does this face.
Okay, Devon Sawa face.
You know, kills certain type of kills, or like death's gonna get us, or how many times when someone gets skipped, when someone gets skipped in line. I think that would be a good one.
Drink when someone is skipped.
I was kind of joking about Devon Sawa.
And see, this is one where I really think I need to give a little bit more thought to it.
Well,
which is tough. Yeah.
I mean, that was.
I mean, I would argue something like
every time,
even like an Evil Dead 2 or a Shiza, I don't know.
I think Final Destination might throw people off a little bit, because not throw them off, but like I don't think it's a go-to. The Leprechaun's good because.
Well, what would be the Leprechaun one?
Anytime he does something silly.
Yeah. Use that or like I can't remember. There's already a Leprechaun chicken game.
Is there?
Yeah.
Oh well.
It's like the Leprechaun. No.
I think we can think of a better option. I don't know. Like I said, I just went with a good retro movie to me. But
and some may not even consider Final Destination retro, even if it is more than 20 years old at this point.
Right.
I think people
it can still count.
Yeah.
It's retro.
I think it could still count, but I don't. I think we would lose that category. I think we need to think about it a bit more. We can come back to it if we want.
I think the Blob would be great.
Oh gosh.
Well, let's move on to the next one, and I'm gonna start looking up some retro movies for that last one. The next one, best metal or heavy rock influenced horror movie. I just went to The Devil's Candy because that's the first one that came to my mind that I really liked.
Yeah, I'm sure him being so into the 80s, he's going to go for something like Black Roses or Trick or Treat or, I still argue Deathgasm, man. I flippin' love Deathgasm.
I still don't think it was that good.
Oh, man. I thought it was
not as good as Devil's Candy.
Devil's Candy was a vastly different type of movie, though. You know, Devil's Candy was very much on the serious side, whereas, you know, Deathgasm was campy as hell and, you know, much more... It was almost like Dead Alive meets black metal, you know. I would even think something like Return of the Living Dead, since that has nothing but a punk and you know, horror rock soundtrack like throughout the entirety of it. They're all like, I mean, the kids we follow at the beginning of the movie, they're all these like gutter punk rock kind of whatever people. That's one that's actually very popular in the horror rock community.
What about that Phantom of the whatever?
You see, that's a 70s movie, and that's more of like it's very much like a Queen theatrical rock kind of approach, like Queen and The Wall and stuff like that. I flippin' love that movie. I still, when I get it on Blu-ray, I really want you guys to watch it.
And you don't think it would make a difference, though?
It's not rock, you know. It's not hard rock, at least, you know. It's definitely rock and roll, and there's a couple instances where
there's Strangeland.
The Dee Snider movie.
Yeah,
I haven't seen that. I haven't seen that in a long time. I do not remember it very well.
I'm gonna write that down to rewatch it because I remember really liking that movie.
Trying to think.
You know what? Scream might actually be a really good one for the drinking game.
Yeah, Scream definitely would. I actually almost thought of suggesting that.
Okay, Final Destination's not retro enough, but Scream is.
No,
it's like 1 year. It's 1 year older.
Year, aren't they?
They're a year apart, 96 or 95 for Scream.
Yeah, 96.
It's either 95 or 96.
96.
But like every time the killer trips over something, every time there's a reference to, every time there's a meta moment.
And that's
like,
what I was thinking. We need something that has like reoccurring moments that you can drink specifically to. And I guess Final Destination does have a lot of that. Like anytime a character does something really stupid that would potentially incur their death.
Or death misses, or
we would have to like outline the drinking game too, right? Like maybe take, chug your drink when this happens if it's more obscure, or take a single drink if it's when this happens something lesser.
Okay.
Yeah, Devil's Candy, Deathgasm, Return of the Living Dead, Trick or Treat, Black Roses. Man, I'm trying to. The 80s did have a shit ton, and I know that Eric is going to be much more familiar with. But then again, we have audience participation, and if it's people who are not very familiar with these obscure hard rock, and I mean, shit, you could even say Night of the Demons. That had a ton of punk music in it, and punk kids in it, and whatnot, going to that party.
What about Friday the 13th or Michael Myers, if you want to go really retro? The drinking game, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, as far as the heavy metal or rock, Fuego, I think I'm just going to defer to you on that one.
Yeah.
Okay.
We could do Scream. I'm sorry, I'm still stuck on
Scream
that one.
No, I am too. Because I was just thinking every dumb teen moment, every meta moment, every time the killer trips, every phone call.
Every phone call.
Yeah.
Every
jump scare.
Every time a teen has sex.
No, there's not a lot of them.
No.
Every time Randy starts quoting other movies.
Okay. Every time Randy quotes.
Randy quotes.
Yeah.
Okay.
A Randy rant.
Yes, he does. He does go on many Randy rants.
Yeah, I do think Scream would be. Until we think of something else, I think that's. Okay, let's see.
Best metal or heavy rock influenced.
So what did you settle on? Devil's Candy?
No, I didn't settle on Devil's Candy. I just gave a bunch of other suggestions.
Which are you leaning towards? It's gonna be you versus him, and yeah, I think he's gonna go retro. So if you want to fight retro with retro, I would think.
Fight fire with fire. Fight fire with fire.
Yeah.
I think he's gonna go more obscure retro. That's the vibe I get, and he loves his obscure stuff. He really does. And if we're looking for an audience that's gonna chime in, I'd say Return of the Living Dead.
Yeah.
Personally,
I'm down with that.
Yeah.
I like that. Okay. Let's still check out Strangeland, because it'd be good to do a retro review of Strangeland anyway.
Yeah.
Did you see Strangeland, Marcia?
I think he directed it too.
Dee Snider?
Sure.
It was really good, actually. It was really good.
He like lures girls in through like what?
Well, he's reformed, and then the whole neighborhood thinks he's still evil, and they eventually push him back into doing bad stuff. All right, so then best soundtrack or score, or we're gonna do best score. I had 5 down. I had Phantasm as the last one, and then I had Nightmare on Elm Street. I love that because I'm gonna play a little bit as we go. So Marcia, you're gonna help decide, okay?
Okay.
Because I know Fuego. Well, Fuego.
You know which one I want.
I know which one you want, so we'll play that first. Phantasm score.
I also really like the Puppet Master one. I really like. But it has to be one that people recognize, though.
That's not. That's an ad. All right, here we go. All right, so here we go with Phantasm. It's got a weird start, but then it gets into what everyone knows.
Mm-hmm.
I think an argument, and we'll talk about the arguments that can be made while we're doing it, so we don't get hit with copyright. I think an argument could be made that this is one of the tremendous tone-setting themes. It really puts you in a particular mind, ominous, creepy, ununderstandable after a fashion.
And I think for that reason, this is on par with me for the Halloween theme. You know, as far as just that very minimalistic, but yet, you know, once again, tone setting and just creepy ambiance of almost like there's a creeping doom that's approaching, and it's very dreamlike also, which goes it correlates with the tone of the movie very much so.
I agree with that. So, okay, so that's Phantasm. Now, to go up against it, let's just do the Halloween one right off the bat.
They're very similar sensibilities, at least.
A little bit. This, of course, is the classic John Carpenter score. This is Run for Your Life.
Yeah.
Something bad is right behind you, and then the ominous tones are like, oh, by the way, you're not going to escape it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, everyone knows this part. But
whereas Phantasm feels more creeping death, this definitely feels more like you're being chased by somebody as opposed to something creeping up on you.
Well, and I have to say, after all these years, this is synonymous with Halloween for me. Like, not just the movie, I mean the holiday.
Yeah.
So if I think of any time we go to a haunted house, I'm always big smiles when I hear this playing in the background, like in the background when we're all in line waiting, because it's like, oh yeah, it's fucking Halloween. We're here to do the haunted house.
And you can use that point or as an argument, like not only is it a fantastic score, but it's iconic to many people, and it's still being broadcasted for many uses, and people just think about it.
True.
More than you think of any of the other ones. I mean, Jaws, you have Jaws on here. Jaws is another one that people, like, remember. They think about often. Even if you haven't really watched the movies, you know the Jaws soundtrack.
I keep forgetting that all my choices are on those. You guys can see them. Yeah, that's what I was going to do last, actually, was Jaws.
Sorry.
I think the Jaws theme I think it made such an impact. Not just as a Jaws score. Yeah. So this, not only as a score, to be enjoyed. There's a lot of parts of the score when everyone's on Amity and all that stuff that's just as good. But this in particular was the first example that I can point to, and I'm sure film geeks can probably say otherwise, but I still think this is the first example of a director using a film score to indicate the presence of the evil, because the shark would not work, and they needed a way to denote that the shark was there chasing people. And so John Williams came up with this, letting you know, oh, the shark is around, the shark is hunting. Even if you can't see him, he's just below the surface, and you can tell because of this music.
And there was so much innovation in this movie just based on the element of necessity, and that's where creativity, like the use of this score and, just so many other things, because they couldn't show the shark, they had to build tension with stuff like this, and that's why I think this score was even more effective, because of that necessity. I mean, if we're going to be honest, as much as I like Phantasm better than both of these last two that we listened to, I think it basically it's a two-horse race. It's Halloween versus Jaws.
You think so?
I definitely do.
The Thing is good, and then I'm going to play Nightmare on Elm Street just because people don't realize that they know Nightmare on Elm Street. Like, they'd be hard-pressed to think about it, but when you actually hear it, you're like, oh, yeah.
Well, and didn't Psycho have, like, a very iconic score as well, if I'm not mistaken?
I don't remember.
Yeah.
Okay, so main title, here we go.
And it may be more relevant just because the Bates Motel just stopped and they were using it.
So, God, I mean, okay, well, so, I mean, I'd be satisfied with either Jaws or Halloween being able to talk about it.
I would so love to talk Phantasm. I just know the audience is not going to... But I mean, maybe I could try to convince them because of how good the score is, and maybe some would be receptive, but for those who
have to play them live.
Yeah,
for those who have watched
necessary
Halloween and Jaws, I mean, since more people have watched those.
I think if we play it live, it'll be more of an honest audience vote. Because they'll have it fresh in their heads. You know what I mean? So... if we can play it live, I would be down for going for Phantasm instead. Like, if you want to take this one too, Fuego, or Marcia, which one do you want to do?
I was going to do the drinking game one.
Oh, that's perfect. So, do you want to do this one and then another one? And I'll do the first two?
See, because I would have totally gone for Halloween, but I'm biased of Halloween too.
Well, and there's huge Halloween fans, and we're going to
this one is
the trailer will have dropped
too,
by
though.
And
that little synth bit, that bum bum bum.
That's what I'm saying. This right here, yeah. This is what I think about.
Yeah.
Not this. This coming up right after this. But I do think about this. Where is it?
Yeah.
And some may think that is equally iconic to Halloween. Maybe.
I don't think
maybe not quite
as iconic as
No.
Halloween. But so the question becomes:
super diehard Freddy.
What's number one? Is it Jaws or Halloween to us?
I would say Halloween.
I would say Jaws.
But
See, that leaves it to me. God damn it! Because I literally can't decide.
I think he might take Halloween though.
So Jaws and Halloween are what we opted for.
You know how much I want Phantasm, as I've said countless times already, but I still really think it's a two-horse race. I mean, the case could be stated for Nightmare. I think I could just play Phantasm and people would understand the merit, but if you haven't seen the film, I don't think it's going to have as much resonance, which is the tough thing. So
did we decide which would be one and which would be two?
No, I don't think we did. Remember, I said Jaws, she said Halloween.
Yeah, I think Jaws would be number one and Halloween would be number two.
I think it's going to be a moot point because I guarantee he's probably... It'd be stupid for him not to say Halloween because I think Halloween's going to be the movie on topic and it's a dead ringer for 99% of horror fans. So...
Yeah.
And this is a horror
Jaws
debate.
Jaws is up there too, yeah. Jaws is up there too, I'm not going to lie, but I would say Halloween is going to be a winner of that category. Unless you can be all like, here it is, I'm going to throw it down. Because you got to be creative in your responses too, otherwise, and win the crowd by personality if you're going to win. Because there's a lot of personality turns. Because if you're a dud on the stage, then you're not going to...
that's true. Okay, well, I think that pretty much covers it then. We were basically done with the podcast anyway. So. All right, guys. Well, I think that's going to do it for this week's Horror Show podcast. We now have our answers for the Great Horror Debate live at the Phoenix Comic Fest versus Eric from the Death Twitch. So, if you guys are just hearing this for the first time, we've just had that live. So I don't... you might be able to... Yeah, you should be able to see who won. But yeah, anyway, thanks very much for listening. I've been Cecil Laird.
Gracias, Jaime, Fuego.
I'm Marcia Parker.
And remember,
Stay
scared.